Welcome to The Music Reel. I'm your host, Nicola Burton. And today my very special guest is Libby Lincoln. Now, Libby is a woman who, it has been said, is leading the arts and the cultural transformation on the Gold Coast. Now, she's one of this country's most experienced arts leaders. She's worked with the Brisbane Festival, the Queensland Music Festival, and the Out of the Box Festival, just to name a couple. Now, today I'm talking to her about the City of Gold Coast cultural strategy. So Libby, welcome to The Music Reel. It's so lovely to meet you and to join you in this conversation. How are you going?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you? I'm glad it's Friday.
Oh, I know, even though it's still locked down, it's Friday still has a special meaning, doesn't
Friday
it?
still does.
Exactly. So perhaps, Libby, you could tell us a little bit about the cultural strategy as well as the music action plan that the City of Gold Coast is doing right now.
Sure. So the culture strategy was developed in about 2014, and it was developed in our city by the City of Gold Coast, which is the sixth largest city in Australia, and one of the largest councils. In fact, I think it's the second largest council. So it's a massive entity. But it was developed in special regard to the Commonwealth Games, I guess, where it was identified that if you're going to have a focus on a city, the city had to be more than bricks and mortar. It had to have a soul. It had to have culture. It had to have things that really, I suppose, spoke to its identity and also the depth of culture that was there. So they put in quite a rich and visionary plan that outlined steps towards accelerating the growth of a creative economy in the city. And that was called the Culture Strategy 2023. And there was three catalysts that were involved in that. One was the Commonwealth Games. They saw that as a huge catalyst in terms of all the artists, all the sector kind of aiming towards a big event that they could participate in with all the world's eyes on them. And that, I think, was highly successful. The second one is the cultural precinct that happens, that is being built at the moment in Evandale, just back behind Surfers Paradise there. So it's basically a theatre complex with a massive gallery going up at the moment and an outdoor stage. That, as I said, is still progressing, but is starting to really change the way that the city speaks and talks about its arts and culture. It's called HOTA, Home of the Arts. That's how that sits at the moment. And the third one was to identify a specialist unit of experts, I guess, that sat within council that looked specifically at how we could help our arts industry and our arts sector, really. And so that's sort of that's where I sit, and the strategy sits as custodian of that. There's around 10 of us now in that unit. Everyone has very different skills, but we all usually have come directly from the industry, from the sector, and we act as a special engine, I guess, that advises both the mayor, councillors, but also develops bespoke programs that look at strategically developing areas of our city that have perhaps not as being developed as others. We are not, we got that history of growth of culture that other cities might have, and we have to do some really strategic work in that place. So we have to know where we want to go. We need to put programs that take us there, and then we have to put our money where our mouth is, really. And I have to say that the budget for the next financial year is being passed down, and once again, this city council has been absolutely formidable in terms of their commitment to this sector, which is amazing. It's really amazing.
It's so good, because usually we're right at the end of the line when it comes to budgets. I know yesterday the federal budget was passed down. It was quite disappointing in so many ways, so many people falling through the cracks. So it's great to hear that the City of Gold Coast has such a high value for arts. Who would we be in this society without that sector?
Yeah, I think, there is a real acknowledgement and commitment, acknowledgement in the first place that that creative economy really does speak to, economic growth and also lifestyle. So it's not just about economic growth, but it makes it a city where people want to live. And I think that what we see is that more and more a lot of artists, especially musicians and all of that sort of music industry area, have already worked out that they can come and live and have this incredible lifestyle in this coastal city, be very close to, you know, transport and national travel when you could do that, and still, you know, still operate, you know, a fairly high profile career while living in this city, and not having to pay the same rents and living expenses that you might have to pay in Melbourne and Sydney. So I think that's sort of catching on, and I think that's what's going to make us a great city.
Absolutely. It's a win-win for everyone, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I guess really the next thing that we really need to look at, you've got this cultural strategy happening, and then 2020 hits, and we've got this incredible experience where, you know, from March the 13th, there were no live shows. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be a long, painful, challenging recovery for the music industry. How does that impact, I guess, the structure of the strategy for you? Has it changed it in any way as a result of this?
It totally has, Nikki. I mean, we have, you know, it's hit everyone really, really hard. And I guess because we are so linked, I guess, to our friends and colleagues out there in the industry, it can't but help impact in terms of how we operate our programs and what we prioritise. As a city, as an event city, and I'm talking very high level here, it's a challenge for a city that's always linked itself to, you know, major events, bring in the crowds, bring in the people. It's a huge blow in terms of how we view ourselves as a city. And so I think there has already been a shift through the arts and culture strategy and through the music action plan, which I haven't spoken to you about yet, but there was already a shift, which was trying to support much more the local ecology, trying to support local audiences a lot more and local artists a lot more. And that shift, I think, has only been, you know, highlighted and has been even more relevant at this point. And so we, just our unit, for instance, in the Music Action Plan, I think, you know, where all of a sudden there's spotlight. The shift has shifted from, you know, those major events, from those international, those big tourist kind of stuff, down into our local economy and our local ecology. And we need to kind of find solutions fast and quick to use this opportunity to leverage what we can do. So it's given us, it is an opportunity, but it's also we need to really quickly adapt. I won't use the word pivot because
I know it's a drinking game. If anyone says unprecedented, pivot, or innovate, that's what a few of our listeners have said. If you say those words, we take a drink.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
so I'm not saying
is better.
Adapt. Look, and I think it's fantastic in the sense that when I was growing up, I was a Brisbane girl. Where did I go for live music? You know, I drove down the highway to the Gold Coast, and you know, there was iconic venues down there.
The Playroom,
yes. Bombay Rock, all, you know, and we had this crazy. This is the 80s. For anyone, you know, this is a long time ago. But, you know, we had these incredible bands also that were loved and cherished, and could, you know, basically make a living through touring, which is sort of is coming back as the new norm. And there is an opportunity now for these local venues to really start to, you know, profile themselves within the community, be really cherished again. And profile our local artists and really build those audiences and really build that commitment to loving and owning that loyalty to our local product. And I think that's an opportunity that we need to find how to do that as best and fast as we can and support it as much as we can in terms of what sort of programs and initiatives that we're rolling out. So we're putting a lot of effort into supporting music venues. We're trying to find ways of supporting, again, using venues, because I think they are really pivotal here. I use that word.
You get away with that one.
Okay, all right. They're really important, I think, in terms of providing that backbone. So we even have some of those businesses looking at trying to find, adapt their business model so that they're actually looking at streaming putting their efforts into providing that streaming opportunity for artists. They need equipment, they need funding to do that, they need support, they need really great, skills development, professional development in that space. So trying to really support and help where they want to go and how they want to get there. So a lot of our grant programs are really responsive to that sort of request. So trying to let the sector lead, which means we have to be responsive, I guess, because we don't know. We've just done a cultural survey, actually. We've had a quite extensive response, and it's going to be really interesting. It closes on 30th of June, and it's going to be interesting to see the types of needs that these artists and these businesses do have, and how that will affect, I guess, some of those programs we have rolling out. Yeah.
That's great, because what I'm hearing from everyone is that we recover from the local community pod out.
That's it.
And it's the pub, the artist, the local business, the local community radio station, the local, I guess, tourism operator, and we just branch out from there and gradually recover that way. So tell me a little bit about, I guess, the music action plan, because that's going to become a part of this.
Yeah, so the music action plan was a significant part of, I guess it's come from the culture strategy, but it really was a response to industry outcry when, we saw the demise, I guess, of that venue infrastructure in probably more the 90s in the city. But you had your last few remaining faves, and we saw those venues closing down as well. And there suddenly was a bit of an outcry, and they looked to council as to what the hell is happening in this space. And again, I have to, all credit goes to council. They took it seriously and decided that even though a lot of the issues were around liquor licensing, noise complaints and that sort of thing, that there was a role that council could play in supporting this business. So the music action plan evolved after years and years of going round and round, as you always know it does in some of these government things, but we got there. So we've got a plan that has about 25 actions, and they're very, very specific actions that were written for the next, they started in 2019. I've lost my dates. 2018. It's due to finish next year.
Right.
So
okay.
It's just a 3-year cycle. So again, it was really looking at what we had to do to actually even get to the point where we were going to be attracting major tours, major promoters, that sort of thing. It's like the groundwork that had to be done before that. So it's actually quite a boring plan in the sense that it isn't there's no sort of sexy stuff in there. It's actually really hard work, important groundwork, what I call housekeeping work that needs to be done to actually support the industry. So it does a lot of sector development and a lot of skill development stuff, the type of courses that Brad was talking about.
This is music. Yep, perfect.
A lot of advocacy work. We're trying, and we haven't even got there yet, but we're trying to work a lot more with businesses to understand the value of live music, but also to be better at live music, to actually understand it as a business and what a business it is in terms of programming your audiences and being connected and networked and that sort of thing. That's the sort of skill development side of it, sector development, business development, grants. We've got quite a significant amount of grants that are going in that space. The next space is even more boring, but it's the backbone. It's actually regulatory change and planning amendments that need to take place so that we are going to provide businesses, music businesses, with more confidence about what council can do to support them. Yeah, so we've got a special entertainment precinct underway, which is very similar to what Fortitude Valley. It's the legislative framework that Fortitude Valley used, and basically it's just separating noise control from being a liquor licensing issue to being a council issue, which is kind of scary for council, but at the end of the day, it means we've got more control over where we want these venues to be, and if we want to support them, we're going to put our, go in and back them really in that sense and try and do the best we can. So that's important. Then there's a lot of city reputation building, profile, changing perceptions of what Gold Coast is. And that's a whole lot of work done on, you know, promoter networking side of things, to, you know, being on the map for tours, to understanding what venues we have and inbound delegations and that sort of thing. So really building that city reputation and that knowledge about who our audiences are, who our artists are, who our venues. And then the fourth one is something called LEAD, and that's, again, it's actually the city. The city, when I talk about council, you know, we did a bit of a sort of audit. There are 18 different council areas that interface with live music in our city. 18.
Wow.
So you know, you're talking about, you know the city standards people who are setting conditions for noise management. You're talking about safety. You're talking about, you know, traffic. You're talking about planning amendments. You know, events people. It's just, and the list goes on. City reputation, corp comms. You know, all of these people rely on live music or interface with live music, whether it's just been a tidbit of their little business. And so we've brought them all together and we've said, okay, the customer is the live music promoter, the live music venue, the live music festival. How can we be a city that's going to be more engaged, more responsive and be able to actually give back a more kind of coherent, confident, professional approach when these people approach our cities? That's taking time to make it's systemic change that needs to kind of happen within the back of council.
But when you said it's not sexy and it's boring, it's what I see. The thing is that you can't put on a show without all of that planning happening.
Absolutely.
So what you see on stage is like 0.001% of everything else that goes on to putting a show on.
Exactly.
So there's nothing boring about that. I think it's great for people to understand what it takes to actually get a scene to happen. And it's really great to hear that the City of Gold Coast is investing in this scene, because it's such an important thing. And like everyone's hearing as you've been speaking, it's no mean feat. It doesn't happen overnight.
It doesn't happen overnight.
Planning.
Yeah.
And I
think,
great.
and I think the most important thing is, you know, I keep saying is that we need to be listening to that sector, to that industry, and really try and open up our places and spaces so that these businesses can thrive really and have a role. And it's not easy within the legislative environment that a city council has, but it's a cultural change. And I feel that as the city grows up, if these voices are at the table, and that's what we try to be, we try and be a voice at the table. You know, it will become an automatic response to think about these types of businesses.
It's great. I feel so optimistic after hearing this from you today, because so many people are so concerned about what they're facing, this uncertainty. But to know that one city in Australia, and it's just one city, that has invested so much into this, I think that we'll recover, and we'll actually recover and reimagine in a place that we weren't before. I think it'll actually be better. By the sound of what you're saying, it sounds like it will be actually this great symbiotic relationship between all of the moving parts.
Yeah,
so well done. That's great.
Yeah, thank you. There's a great, I mean, I think that the government does value it does impact economic growth, and that's just a fact, and everyone has to take notice of that. And I also have to congratulate the industry. The industry has been incredible in this journey as well, by kind of reimagining, trying to work out how they can best adapt and grow. And they are a creative industry, and that's why we're going to do it. It's not going to be an issue. We're going to get there, I think.
Exactly. And I think it's really good for artists listening to this today would have no idea that this is going on in the background. So I think it's a wonderful chat that we've had. I'm really happy that you've actually shared this with us. Libby, thank you so much. I'll leave it there, but I'm going to wish you the very best with the cultural strategy. I will probably keep checking in with you guys, because I think this is a story that needs to be shared often, because artists need to understand what it takes to actually create this ecosystem.
I agree.
So, Libby,
and to know people believe in them.
And you obviously do. The City of Gold Coast obviously does. So they put their money where their mouth is. So Thank you, City of Gold Coast, and thank you, Libby Lincoln. It's been so great to meet you and talk to you today.
You
Best
too.
wishes.
Thanks. See you later. Have fun.
Bye.